You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Handsome Aaron Airport, I see you frantically wiping your hands and wiping your mouth. Were you snacking before we started?
I never snack before we start, but I was just like hungry and I had a bag of Ringolos here. Humpty Dumpty Ringolos, and I just couldn't help myself. And I was trying to get as many Ringolos in as possible before we went live.
Okay, well, you did a great job. You scarfed them. We don't want to start a special treat segment on the show. Since we already have a special drink segment, I don't think my waistline could take opening the show with chips and pop. But I will tell you, I do have a drink tonight. It's not really that special, but it is refreshing. It's a Diet 7-Up.
Oh, okay. Diet 7-Up, eh?
Yeah.
That is a special drink. You were saying you didn't have one before we went live.
Let me ask you this. 7-Up or Sprite?
I like both. Yeah, you don't have to choose in this life. You're free to have both.
Variety is the spice of life. So I do 7-Up and Sprite and live my life to the fullest. What do you got over there?
I have something kind of similar, actually. I have a Diet A&W root beer.
Ooh, okay. A&W make great root beer.
And root beer is generally caffeine free. So all the boxes are checked. Here we go. Oh, yeah, that's tasty.
Yeah, that's damn good.
Really washes down my Ringolos.
We got a lot of voicemails tonight, so I'd love to chat more about our drinks, but I want to just jump right into the voicemails. Every so often, we cover a story that really stirs up the Keep Canada Weird correspondent crew, and it happened again last week. The story surrounding the senior citizen punching out the out-of-control teenager inside a Tim Hortons coffee shop in Canada has led to a lot of listeners writing in. An American listener named Julie wanted to give us a bit of insight on her experience with dealing with teenagers in a business she manages and her thoughts on seeing a senior citizen punch out a teenager that was out of control. Here's what Julie had to say.
Hi, Jordan. My name is Julie, and I'm from Wisconsin, and I listen to your show all the time. And I'm calling in about the kid who got beat up by the senior citizen at the Tom Horton. I'm a property manager of a shopping mall, and I have to deal with naughty kids every day. And when the school season is over, these little kids come to the mall and they think that they can do whatever they want. Their parents, I don't know what their parents do, but they've literally rode their bikes through the mall, and they swear at the mall walkers, which are senior citizens. They throw things at them. It's just terrible. They're little vandals. And so I love the video. I thought it was awesome that man was wailing on that kid. And I know that sounds terrible, but
it doesn't.
When you deal with them on a regular basis, like I do, I just wish that we could do something to these little snots. They're just brats. And why do they think that they have the right to do this? I just don't get it. But I just wanted to support the elderly people that smacked around the young teenager, because there are days I wish I could do that.
Do you want to react to this incident taking place at Tom Horton?
Yeah, I prefer that name, Tom Horton. It's more professional than Tim Horton. It's Tom Horton.
Yeah.
CPA.
The guy.
Tom Horton, attorney at law,
That's right. His friends call him Tim Horton.
Yeah, but it's Tom Horton.
Julie sounds like she has a bloodlust, and that's okay. I don't condone senior citizen violence against children, but Julie, she doesn't seem to have much of a problem with it. Did she say she manages a mall?
This is beginning to sound more and more like a Keep Canada romantic voicemail, because can you imagine if you were to be dating someone who manages a mall?
What do you mean? Why? Why would that be? I would hang out at her mall.
I'm just saying, the reason I bring it up because you and I both love malls.
Yeah.
We love spending time in malls. And imagine if we were dating the mall manager.
Yeah, but they say don't dip your pen in the company ink. And I feel like dating the mall manager would just be a little too close to the fire.
Think of the perks, though. You'd be able to have access to the private bathroom. So when you have to go number 2 at the mall, you'd be able to go to the manager's bathroom.
Do they have their own bathroom?
Of course, the manager has their own bathroom. The manager doesn't use the the Norm's bathroom. You know, the manager is up in an office.
Yeah, in the tower above the center of the mall.
Yeah, constantly using the bathroom.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know. I'm still not sold on the idea. I've never thought like, man, I'd love to date a mall manager. But yeah, I guess it would have its perks. I'll see you to that. We got to get into something here, though. That was a great voicemail, a great way to start the show. But there has been a bit of political outrage that has taken over Canada. And I think a lot of people are turning to us for our insight and our reaction to Canada's latest political controversy. I'm talking, of course, about one of Canada's most famous musicians, Drake, and his battle with former NDP leader Jagmeet Singh.
I don't think anyone saw this coming. Drake has had a beef with Jagmeet Singh, but don't expect a diss track from the former politician, just an apology.
Y'all ready to party tonight?
Fans were certainly ready to party when Kendrick Lamar with special guest SZA played 2 shows in Toronto last week.
Let's go.
But one attendee in particular is feeling the heat. Jagmeet Singh was spotted at the show, and Toronto rapper Drake isn't happy about it, going as far as calling the former NDP leader a goof for being there. Drake and Lamar have been embroiled in a beef for over a year, the two dropping diss tracks against each other. The undisputed winner of the feud is Lamar and his Grammy-winning record, They're Not Like Us. In the track, Lamar calls Drake a pedophile for allegedly dating underage women. Drake has taken Lamar and his record company to court, suing for defamation. As for Singh, he took to X to apologize, writing, "I was born in this city. I love this city, but real talk, I get it. I shouldn't have gone at all. OVO and Drake have lifted the city and Canada for me. It'll always be Drake over Kendrick." Come on now, boys. Can't you just get along? So Kendrick Lamar is still on tour. Drake has a new record coming out. The fact that we're talking about them, I guess it's good for both of them.
So do you want to react to the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, or just the weirdness or nonsensical nature of a politician apologizing for attending a pop concert?
Yeah, the beef between Drake and Kendrick is, I don't even want to comment on that. It's been going on for a long time now. It's beyond ridiculous. I don't think it.
But one question about it. Maybe you know more about it than I do. Does Kendrick Lamar have other hits other than his big song that calls Drake a pedophile?
I would imagine he does. I don't really follow him. The only beef that I have with him is he ripped us off.
Did he?
Well, he references A minor in the song.
Oh, that's right. Airport had a song, A minor. That's right.
We had a song called A minor.
Drake has began a defamation lawsuit. I don't know if it's against Kendrick Lamar or against his record label, but I thought that maybe like Kendrick Lamar may have found himself in a difficult position, because if you have like this massive hit that's as problematic as this is, because whether or not, the allegations are true or whatever, if you can't prove that in court, he's probably going to lose every cent he makes from that song. And it was like a big part of Kendrick Lamar played the Super Bowl halftime show and performed that song. Although he didn't sing the line that refers to Drake as a certified pedophile. It's an interesting story. And I think when that defamation trial eventually begins, that's going to be pretty fascinating.
It'll also set quite a precedent for like beefs that play out in hip hop music,
Yeah, and that's a thing that's been going on for a long time, but I think
that's been part of the music, battling and kind of going back and forth with battle songs and diss tracks and all of these things has been a part of hip hop for years and years and years. So
yeah,
for somebody to be able to sue another artist over something like that, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. But as far as Jagmeet Singh, like I don't think he has anything to apologize for. He lives in Toronto.
Agree.
There was a big concert. He went.
Mm-hmm. It was inappropriate to call him a goof.
Goof of all the insults too.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that one hits pretty hard though.
Yeah, because it takes away all of your credibility. When somebody calls you a goof, it means nobody takes you seriously.
With all that said, we have a big card ahead of us tonight. We have two weird stories set in public places in Canada that I'm really excited about. And we also have a section of consumer complaint stories, not listeners sending consumer complaints to us, but bizarre consumer complaints finding their way into the Canadian courts or Canadian media. And we're going to have a string of voicemails related to the senior citizen punching out the kid at Tim Hortons. I'll kind of pepper them throughout the episode, but let's take our first break of the night. And when we get back, we'll have two stories set in weird public places in Canada. Handsome Aaron Airport. Something we discuss a lot on this show is public art installations, and we're going to do it again tonight in episode 168. Oak Bay, British Columbia's latest public art piece is turning heads and raising quite a few eyebrows. The life-size sculpture, titled Modern Man Does Research, features a stainless steel man sitting on a stainless steel toilet, staring into his stainless steel telephone.
Down the street from the market in front of Oak Bay's public library is a new public art installation that's raising a few eyebrows. It's titled Modern Man Does Research, although how that research is being conducted is the interesting part. It depicts the man sitting on a toilet, scrolling on his phone with a cigarette in his mouth. It's created from stainless steel cookware and is part of that municipality's Arts Alive project, scattering art installments throughout the city on loan for up to a year. People we spoke with today say they like the piece, and it's doing what public art should do: get us talking.
I think it's good. I think it's a meditation on what we're all doing with ourselves these days. Still thinking, but maybe not quite having the same context.
I think it's really rather interesting. I like it.
You do?
Yeah, it makes people stop and look and talk. What could be better?
Isn't that the point of public art?
Exactly.
It's good. People stop, think, have a little think about something, rather than just go about in our own little worlds.
A full list of artwork displayed for this year's Arts Alive project can be found on Oak Bay's website.
I'm just going to say it. I like it. That's public art for me. It has an amazing look. Like when you look at the light reflecting off the stainless steel, beautiful. But the message behind it, it makes you talk, it makes you think. And I think it gives an important message to a lot of people.
Yeah,
Especially in this day and age.
Especially in this day and age. Imagine if this art piece was erected in the 1950s.
Well, it wouldn't make any sense because back then,
Take out the phone,
Okay.
and it's just
it would be holding a book,
or just sitting on the toilet.
and it would still be called Modern Man Does Research.
No, it'd just be Modern Man Poops.
Yeah, it would be. I think it would be a lot more divisive.
I guess so. Yeah, yeah. I'm, and both of us are normally quite critical of pretty much all of the outdoor art installations that we've covered on this show around this country. And this is the one that I love. I love this one. It makes you think. It's interesting. It's well done. It's well designed. My only issue with it is the placement of it, where it's outside. I think this would be better inside, in a mall manager's bathroom. That's where I think would be the best spot, because you are dating the mall manager and you have totally free and unlimited privileges to the mall manager's bathroom. And then you go in and the metal man is using the bathroom every time you go in.
Doing his reading COVID stuff.
And that, just going through COVID details and concerns about the vaccine. and then you realize, how does Metal Man get access to the mall manager's bathroom? Because I'm the one dating the mall manager.
Mm-hmm.
So then you start to wonder, what's the relationship between Metal Man and the mall manager?
Okay. So it makes the art a little more conflicting to look at. Do you think there is value in making fun of or discrediting the kind of research someone would do on their phone on a toilet? Like, I think that's one valuable public contributing part of this art. Kind of rolls its eyes at the idea of, YouTube research or Facebook research that people do. Do you think that's valuable to make fun of publicly?
I think this doesn't make fun of it. I think this validates it. And yeah, like it's everybody does this. Everybody sits on the toilet on their phone, and maybe it's not research, maybe it is, but people work on the toilet now.
Yeah,
and
you
modern
can.
technology has given us that, and I think it should be celebrated. I think it should no longer be shamed.
We took such different ideas and feelings out of this piece. I support it as a public statement against sloppy research online, and you see it in so many different ways that it's quite surprising. Let's move on from this story. There's another weird public place that is in the news in Canada, and maybe we'll agree on this one. It doesn't involve art. It actually involves a rather dangerous slide. A playground in Colwood, BC is making headlines for all the wrong reasons after its towering metal slide has proven to be a bit more thrilling than your average playground variety. One of the people who took a trip down the slide was Sarah Lalonde, a mother of two. And when she came out the bottom of the slide, she ended up with a leg broken in 2 places. The city has since shut the slide down, pending further safety review. But let's listen in on the story of the slide to hell.
Still very sore. A lot of the swelling has come down in this part of my leg.
A West Shore mom is relieved the tallest slide at a Colwood park has been closed after a painful landing.
It was not the experience we intended to happen. We went around the first turn, and as soon as we hit the first turn, my leg went all the way this way and went up and smacked the top of the metal slide, and I heard a crack. I heard my leg break.
Sarah Lalonde rode down the Quarry Park slide with her son.
We were bumping like jelly beans down the rest of the slide.
This is where the rods and screws are.
Unlike his mom, who needed surgery for broken bones, he wasn't seriously hurt.
Would you go down that slide again?
No.
The city of Colwood is aware of 2 reported injuries. Others have added to the tally online in response to a post by staff. The slide's future is under review.
We have to look at this and see what happened before we can ever make any type of conclusions.
The rest of the playground is still open, with signs up. The equipment is for kids aged 5 to 12.
Oh my gosh, it's the best park we've been to. I love it. My daughter is obsessed.
And that tallest slide now cut off.
Slides should be accessible for all abilities and age ranges, and that looks like you can shoot right out the bottom like a fire rocket.
Obviously, safety is the most important as a parent.
When a kid goes to a slide, they shouldn't get hurt on it, even minorly.
Sarah's son says he'll be sticking to the smaller slope as his mom anticipates spending the next year recovering from an all too daring ride.
When I look at that playground, that slide is quite epic. Like, it looks like a lot of fun. It looks like it's almost maybe like 2 stories high, and the slide goes from the 2 stories up to the ground level. It's bigger than any slide I've ever seen at a public playground. But as you hear in that news report, it's something designed for kids. Like, did it say like, I don't know, like 8 to 12 years old or something? This is like a grown woman going down that slide. When I look at that slide, I think myself, like, that looks like a lot of fun, but I would wreck myself if I tried to go down that.
Yeah, it looks pretty dangerous. What I'm wondering and kind of surprised isn't happening here is some type of a lawsuit.
If they had the warning up about the age limit, that would be a defense that the city or whoever owns that playground would have. But I still don't know if that would get them out of it. This playground, it looks like some people with a bunch of like sheet metal and logs made this crazy playground. And I think the reason you're not seeing these interesting, unique playgrounds anymore is because it opens the door to injuries and lawsuits and such. So this is just another example of like people will say, you know, in the 80s when I was a kid, we had, you know, this sort of thing and we survived. In the 80s, we had stuff like these playgrounds, and they all, for the most part, went away because people like this woman went down it and broke their legs, and every so often they sue.
Yeah, but I mean, I've gone down children's slides before and didn't have any issues.
Yeah, this isn't your average slide though. It's taller, it's longer.
But that's what I'm saying. It shouldn't, the slide shouldn't be to begin with.
Yeah.
It's just designed in a way that makes it dangerous, because they were even saying in the story that there were children getting hurt on this slide as well. Not to the extent, and not to the mangled extent that this woman was.
Yeah.
Certainly the children were getting hurt as well. So it just seems like the design of this slide is flawed. And the person who designed it, as punishment, should be sent down their own slide.
Yeah. Well, what do you think is going to happen with this slide? Right now, they kind of have it like fenced off for the most part with the rest of the playground open. My money's on they just remove this slide because they don't want to risk getting sued if they don't get sued by her.
Yeah, get rid of the slide, because you're going to have, you know, since the puberty problem is rampant in this country, you're going to have teenagers hearing that this is a death slide, and they're going to need to try it out, and then they're going to end up as pretzels on the other side.
The slide to hell is what I call it, and that's because it's fast, it's scary, it's dangerous, and because it's stainless steel, I bet you it's very hot and muggy in there.
Yeah.
But you brought up an interesting point there. Do you remember moments ago you referenced the puberty problem?
Of course, I remember. And to be honest, I kind of did it on purpose.
Okay, good. Well, it's a good move on your part because you're setting up the next voicemail. I told you we have actually a trilogy of voicemails related to the senior citizen punching out the kid at the Tim Hortons that we discussed last week in episode 167. A listener named Mara wants to weigh in on that issue, not so much in the context of what happened at that Tim Hortons, but specifically on the puberty problem branding that we used. The puberty problem is a term that you coined to represent the phenomenon we notice where teenaged children seem to be trying to destroy everything that is good about society. We've been calling it the puberty problem. Mara's not crazy about that. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hello, bus stop and Handsome Aaron Airport. This is Mara from the States. I listen every week. It's one of the bright spots in my week, so thank you for letting us bury our heads in the sand with you. I wanted to workshop the name the puberty problem a little bit. To me, that sounds kind of like there's a problem with the puberty, which I don't really want to listen to or be a part of. So I was wondering how we feel about instead calling it the teenage rampage. Think it over. Just let me know. Thanks again. Keep Canada weird. Bye.
I get her point on the puberty problem. That term, if without the right context, it may lead someone to believe that we're talking about a problem with puberty, but where the term comes from is the problem seems to start socially at the time of puberty. What Mara is considering is maybe a rebrand, and she floated the term the teenage rampage. I like it, but I don't love it. It's almost there.
It's an interesting name. If she had have given this idea to us before I came up with the puberty problem, then we probably would have called it the teenage rampage. But
yeah,
because that teenage rampage is better than the other options we were floating before we came up with the puberty problem. But we've been using the puberty problem now for a few months, or maybe 2 months or so, or maybe longer. And we've already trademarked it, and we have T-shirts. And
before you get too far, though, you got to wait till our third voicemail, because
okay.
I am going to advocate for a rebrand, but not just yet. And that rebrand isn't going to be the teenage rampage. A little later in the show, we're going to hear actually from a clinical psychologist about
Oh,
this
God,
issue.
okay.
And what they present is possible branding that I think is really good.
Okay.
But with all that said, let's take our second and final break of the night. When we get back, we have 2 consumer complaints. These are stories involving going to the news or going to court about a consumer issue. These are 2 very strange stories. Buckle up for these. We'll get into them after this break. Handsome Aaron Airport. I love a consumer complaint. I love seeing these things in the news, and I love the public serving as kind of judge and jury for who's wrong, the consumer or the big corporation that has their money. We have a good one here. An Ottawa man was stunned to receive a $1,547 water bill. It's over 15 times his usual amount. When he contacted the water company, asking them to investigate why the bill was so high, the problem was eventually traced to a toilet leaking in a basement bathroom that the man rarely uses. He doesn't think he should have to pay the bill. The water company says he has to. Here's the story of the leaky toilet in Ottawa.
And this was the culprit.
This basement toilet has caused much grief for 68-year-old Paul Malowin.
How much was it leaking? Like that.
A silent leak went unnoticed. He was shocked when the bill arrived. The total, $1,547 over 2 months.
I thought, it's a house. Like, I would have had a flood. I would have had a pool sitting somewhere. As you can see here, I've had an average about $80, $90 all the way through till here. Shoots off the chart.
Malowin called the city immediately. The response? He's on the hook for the bill.
So this nice young lady calls me. Then she says, oh yes, well, it's bylaw. And now that it's a bylaw, you can't get any kind of rebate.
Toilet issues are fairly common. Water is continually running. So although
Out of This World Plumbing says even a small leak can add up to big bucks.
probably a flapper that just didn't close properly, in which case it's in your toilet, but essentially it's the same as you just going in and leaving a tap turned on and just letting it run for 2 months. So it will put your water bill up quite high.
The city has a program that can alert residents when water use is high. It's called a Water Monthly Usage Alert, but the onus is on the owner to sign up. In a statement, the city says, homeowners are responsible for all water usage on their property as well as the repairs and maintenance of all plumbing fixtures. It's important that they ensure these are in good working condition, and if a resident suspects a leak, they are encouraged to address the problem as soon as possible to avoid increases in their water bills. Malowin says alerts should be automatic for everyone.
She says to me, oh, but you know, you could have registered for this.
Malowin says he had no idea this was an option.
Why isn't it, you get 20% over, we send you a warning, say, hey, you're already 20%. You don't wait till someone has 15 months a bill in 2 months.
Malowin is still holding out for financial relief, but realizes he may have to pay the full amount.
Do you want to serve as judge and jury in this case?
Well, do you want me to just say what I think?
Yeah, you're the lawyer, I'm guessing, representing the water company.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
What do you think should happen, water company lawyer?
Your Honor, this man needs to pay the bill. And
why is that?
Because he used the water. That's why.
That's pretty simple. If anyone is in trouble, it should be the manufacturer of whatever part of the toilet failed.
Yeah, but I mean, how old is the toilet? And also, that's what happens to toilets. They start to leak eventually. It's happened to me several times throughout my life. I've had leaky toilets, and I could hear the little stream kind of continuing after it was flushed, and I thought, oh, yeah, that's sounds like a leaky toilet.
Got to deal with that.
Yeah,
so
then I fix it. Yeah.
It seems like his idea is kind of like I should be allowed to have a toilet in a downstairs bathroom that I don't go anywhere near. And if it leaks, like, it shouldn't be on me.
Yeah.
That's kind of the risk you take with, plumbing inside your house. People take it for granted, but it's actually quite risky and a lot of things can go wrong. In this guy's case, what went wrong is that there was a slow leak and it cost him 15 times his normal bill. It is $1,500. That's a lot of money, but this could be way worse.
Yeah, no, this guy, not to quote Drake here, but this guy's a goof.
What about his condescending tone when he was giving the quotes of the woman he spoke to from the call center or whatever? And she said, but there's like the way he delivered it, but there's a bylaw, and the bylaw.
But there's a bylaw in the bird. Yeah, I didn't care for his impression of her. Yeah, this guy, I don't like this guy.
Yeah,
Flat out say it.
the only part of his case that I do appreciate and sympathize with is that the water company does offer some kind of service where if your bill gets too high, they call you, or well, they probably just send you an email or a text or something like that. His idea is that he shouldn't have had to sign up for that. It should have been automatic. Maybe he has a case there, but it's a business decision for that company. Do we want to automatically put everyone on it or not? They don't owe it to you to offer that service.
No.
So
again, it's they offer water at a pretty reasonable price, and you buy it, and sometimes you don't realize how much you're using of it.
Yeah. All things considered, though, we complain about bills all the time. The price of gas, the price of electricity, the price of food. Of all the bills, water is by far the most reasonable bill. You'd be without water in your house, it would be such a huge problem. And the bill is reasonable in terms of price, even when it goes up.
Yeah. Well, think about how much water you use when you flush the toilet, when you take a shower, when you cook, when you drink, when you let your toilet run. Like
I never think about like, oh, I gotta like when I save water, it's for environmental reasons, never because like, oh, my bill's gonna be nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Water is very cheap, and so are bananas.
I think this guy with his water bill is bananas.
All right. Well, I think we both agree. I side with the water company on this one. I think the guy should pay his bill and get a new toilet put in. And
I agree.
Yeah. All right. That was an easy one. This next consumer complaint, it's not really a consumer complaint, although it does involve the purchasing of sexual services. It's more so a state will legal case, unlike anything I've ever heard. This is truly a Keep Canada Weird news story. An 84-year-old BC widow's $1 million estate is now at the center of a bizarre legal battle after her remaining family members learned that she left her money to a much younger male escort that she met online just months before her death. Her niece, her nephew, and a former personal trainer turned friend are now engaged in a legal battle to overturn her will. This is the story of the 84-year-old woman, the male escort, and the $1 million that she left him.
A BC Supreme Court judge will now decide if the will of Janet Henry, an 84-year-old North Vancouver woman who left her $1 million fortune to a male escort in his 20s who she'd been seeing in the final months of her life, will stand, or if that money will go to her last beneficiary, her former personal trainer, or her closest living relatives, a niece and nephew in Australia. Candice Cho is a wills and estates lawyer in Vancouver who isn't part of the case but has read the court filings.
I think the facts in this case are more unique than my usual cases, although it's not uncustomary to have somewhat dramatic facts. We kind of joke about how it's kind of like soap operas for the dead.
The court documents outline how Henry hired Simon Garston to provide companionship and sexual services in the final year of her life. 3 months before she died in November 2021, she made him the sole beneficiary of her will, and he inherited $1 million. Henry's niece and nephew argue their aunt was unduly influenced by Garston.
They are essentially saying that she was coerced to do something against her will. Essentially, that's what undue influence is.
The niece and nephew aren't asking the judge to throw out their aunt's entire will, just her gift to the escort, because Henry's previous will didn't name them as beneficiaries either.
It was a former personal trainer that she had a close relationship with, but who presumably was also much younger than her at the time. I did the math. It looked like she was 72 when she met him, and he was much younger than her, and she chose at that time to give her estate to him. And he was added as a party to this action. So really the contest is now between the next of kin and also the former personal trainer friend and the male escort.
Cho says it can be difficult to convince a judge that a person's last wishes shouldn't be followed.
I don't see anything from the case to indicate that there was any declaration of incapacity on her front, despite her advanced age. And so she has the rights of any other person to give her estate to whomever she wants. That's called testamentary freedom. And if she wants to give it to somebody that she has strong affection to, who happens to be her male escort, she has the freedom to do so.
She says it's a case that wills and estates lawyers will be following closely.
Any predictions here? I don't know. It could go any way. Yeah. It'd be fascinating to read the reasons for judgment.
The Supreme Court judge has set a June 30th trial date in this case, but the former personal trainer, who was the beneficiary before the new will was drafted, has asked for an adjournment so he has time to prepare his case. That hearing will be next week.
I've never heard anything like that. Even these battles over wills and estates and all that stuff, that's not uncommon. But the facts of this case, this has to be uncommon.
This is going to be a TV show one day, 100%.
It has to be. I would never expect an 84-year-old widow. She's been living alone for, I think I read her, she has no children. Her husband died like 15 years ago. And she's just spends her time, I guess, with first a personal trainer, then a male escort for the last 3 months of her life. You would never have expected that.
No. I mean, she died at 84. Is that the age that yeah. So you would, but I applaud her is how I feel about it.
For living the good life?
She's at that age, she's still, for lack of a better term, horny. And I think that's wonderful. And I think she was living her life, especially the last few months of her life, how she wanted to live it. Having intimate relations with a much younger man. And, he deserves this. He deserves the money.
There is a dark side of it, because a part of her niece and nephew's reasoning for trying to have the will overturned, again, it's not because they want the money. They weren't beneficiaries on her last will either. The personal trainer was. So they want to have it overridden and that money given to the prior guy who was a personal trainer. But in their case, in the court filing, it is quite interesting and a little dark what they have to say. I'm going to read you some of it here. This is going to repeat a little bit of the facts of the case, but it's going to give more detail on what the allegations actually are. Janet Henry, an 84-year-old widow from British Columbia with no children, left the bulk of her $1 million estate to a much younger man she met online named Simon Garston, a self-described professional companion and male escort. The two connected via Skype in early 2021 and saw each other several times over the next 6 months, including multi-night stays at her home. Court documents state that Henry paid Garston agreed-upon fees for companionship and sexual services. Now Henry's niece and nephew are contesting the will, alleging she was lonely and vulnerable, especially during the COVID-19 lockdowns, and subject to undue influence by Garston, who they say held a position of power over her. Garston, in response, argues that Henry was an independent woman who made her own decisions and that he was financially dependent on her. It wasn't the other way around. A BC Supreme Court judge ruled that the case must go to trial, noting circumstantial evidence like a 54-year age gap and revealing text messaging, suggesting more than a casual relationship that raises questions of influence. Adding complexity, a former friend named Douglas Wilson has entered the legal battle. A previous will from February of 2021 named him as the primary heir to her fortune. Wilson says he and Henry met in 2009 when he was her personal trainer, and they developed a close relationship that lasted even after he moved to Australia. He alleges the switch to Garston was a radical departure from her long-time estate plans and claims Garston manipulated Henry emotionally and encouraged risky health practices, like encouraging her to eat raw chicken to cure her cancer and advised her against seeking medical help. The trial is scheduled for June 30th. So, a few things here. For one, the part of the allegation that involves the male escort encouraging her to self-treat cancer with raw chicken and not go to see a doctor and stuff, that kind of would lean me to think, like, was this guy trying to see an end to her life? Did she take it upon herself to update the will, or is that something he encouraged her to do? And I think they could probably get to the bottom of that by looking at texts or figuring out what led to her, contacting the lawyer to do this. The whole thing's
Yeah.
bizarre. And on top of all this as well, the personal trainer, he didn't even know this had happened until the niece and nephew contacted him. And now the trial, it looks like it's going to be delayed because now he's going to be involved in it, and his legal team is going to need some time to step in.
I feel that somebody wants to leave their money to someone in their will, whoever it is. I feel like they have the right to do that. If there's concrete evidence of manipulation and attempted murder was, some people are claiming here, that's a little different. But right now you have that side is saying those things. Obviously they're motivated to say that, but I don't know. We'll have to see what hard evidence comes out here. I would, one thing I will say in defense of the male escort is that he was probably the only person spending time with her in the end, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's true. And there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, exactly. So if this woman is on her deathbed and this is the person that she's connecting with the most, and the family that she does have, nieces and nephews, aren't around, the personal trainer moved to Australia, this is the person who's by her side.
Mm-hmm. Jeez. It's a wild one, but it will be an interesting case to follow. I'm hoping it gets a lot of media coverage because there's been very little written about this so far, which is kind of surprising because it's so salacious and unexpected. I hope that the trial, when it eventually happens, we got 2 trials to look forward to: the Lamar Drake defamation trial, and now the 84-year-old the 84-year-old's millions being left to the male escort trial.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah, no, it's going to be busy. We may need to add a new series into this show that we have,
called trial case watch,
or
trial
Keep
watch?
Canada Legal, or something to that effect.
Yeah, we'll workshop that name. Speaking of workshopping names, we've heard a lot of people weighing in on the senior citizen punching out the kid at the Tim Hortons. We've heard Mara suggest maybe considering a rebrand from the puberty problem. Let's pass the microphone to another listener of Keep Canada Weird. We received a voicemail from someone who claims to be a clinical psychologist named Dr. Rogers. I looked them up and I don't know if they're legit, but let's give them the microphone anyway.
Hello, my name is Dr. Rogers. I happen to be a clinical psychologist and psychiatrist. I just listened to the latest episode of Keep Canada Weird, where the teen got slapped at Tim Hortons. Now, you and Aaron do not have the psychological background in which to analyze the situation, but luckily I do. The clinical term for what happened is puberty pushback. This is where teens try to push back against the boundaries of society as they try to find their way and navigate their place in a society as they emerge from their child state to their adult state. Now, my practice happens to be in Saanich, of all places, and that teen happens to be my client. So luckily, because of this incident, not only do I get to charge exorbitant fees in trying to resolve the situation of his trauma in traumatizing people, but now I get to charge those same exorbitant fees in trying to resolve this new trauma that has come up as a result of this incident where the senior has slapped him. Have a good day, gentlemen.
That was good.
Yeah.
It's good when you hear from an actual real clinical psychologist.
Yeah. There's not much we can say in, back to that, because we just don't have the education, the experience in psychology that this individual does. So we can't really argue them. So they're suggesting that we call it the puberty pushback.
Yeah. And we call it we've been using the puberty problem, But the puberty pushback is just a little more descriptive. I don't know if it's better, but it's a different way to describe the puberty problem. I don't know if it's better though.
Yeah,
Puberty pushback.
I'm not
puberty
convinced. I'm
problem.
not convinced. It's interesting. My only concern is selling merchandise. In terms of rolling off the tongue in a marketing perspective, puberty problem is the winner. Puberty pushback. Let's have some more people weigh in, some more listeners, and see what. Let's get a few more opinions on this before we make any final decisions.
Okay, we're sticking with puberty problem at this point, though. And
for now,
if we went with puberty pushback at this point, do we need to include Dr. Rogers in on a commission on all the sales of the merchandise we've been selling that's been flying off the shelves?
We do. It's a 70% commission.
Well, this has been interesting. Do we need any kind of palate cleanser, or do you think this is, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I got one other voicemail I want to play. I guess we'll call this a Keep Canada Romantic segment. This may be unexpected. This may be shocking to you. We've heard people on prior episodes share dating profiles, I think in hopes that someone out there in Keep Canada Weird Nation would find an attraction to them and reach out. But I got a voicemail from a listener named Nancy in California. She's not putting herself on the market. I think she wants you, Aaron. Here, I'm just going to let her plead her case.
Hi guys, this is Nancy calling from California. I'm sure you get this question frequently, but I was wondering if Handsome Aaron Airport is on the market. I think we would be a pretty good match. I adore a dry sense of humor. I love cats.
Ooh.
I'm into musicians.
Oh.
And I enjoy watching live music.
Okay.
Also, for what it's worth, my mom's from PEI.
It's not worth much.
And with the way things are going in the US, I'd be willing to relocate for love. So let us, ladies, know if we stand a chance with Mr. Airport.
I mean, there's some interesting points that she made. I like when my ears perked when she said cats. That's a big thing with me because, as all listeners of this show know, I have a cat who's my world. And if somebody doesn't like cats, then it's not going to work out.
Do you think she's looking for companionship or citizenship? I think it's interesting that in her pitch, she's like, and I will move to you.
And I will move. Yeah, I didn't think about that until you mentioned it. And now that's all I can think about. You know, I mean, this listener should send in another voicemail and convince me that this is not for citizenship.
It's been speculated from the very beginning that Keep Canada Romantic was going to be derailed by your charming nature, and it looks like maybe that's happened.
So yeah, another voicemail from her convinced me it's not about citizenship. However she wants to do that, whatever method she uses to try and convince me and the Keep Canada Weird Army that I should marry this person.
And have her move here.
Mm-hmm. She could be a third co-host on the show.
Oh, that would be an interesting first date.
It would be two people with a cat who keeps Canada weird.
I think we've been through a lot tonight. This was an interesting way to end it, but the actual stories tonight, you can't ask for more than a crazy political story like Drake versus Jagmeet Singh. We had the consumer complaint with the water bill, the absurd story of the 84-year-old's $1 million being left to the 20-something-year-old male escort. And then we also had some public art in there. This has been an awesome episode. I love episode 168. What do you give this out of 10?
Oh, it's been a wonderful episode for me. I don't want to use a number. I find that a bit too mechanic. And
so how many thumbs up then?
I don't want to use thumbs up because I only have 2, and it doesn't quite represent the complexity of how I or a listener would feel about an episode. There's a lot of levels to that.
So let's just say this then. Did we do it?
Yeah, it was done. Yep.
I agree. Handsome Aaron Airport, until next time.
Jordan Bus Stop Backhoe Bonaparte, until next time.
I think we should all consider a will, but I don't know if we should update it months after meeting a much younger lover.
Yeah, and until next time, for anybody who wants to potentially date me, I only have one criteria, and it's that you are a mall manager with their own bathroom.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird. If you've got a news story from your area that you'd like to share with us, or have any thoughts or theories or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us by using the voice recorder that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. And on that topic, I want to give a big thank you to this episode's correspondents. If your voice message was aired tonight, you could email me your address. My email is nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get a Keep Canada Weird badge and swag pack sent out to you. I just ask that you wear the badge proudly and responsibly. Next, a big thanks goes out to Aaron for another great night, Nicole for the intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data for the outro version of O Canada. And then, of course, a sincere and massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening. Your support makes this show possible. And if you'd like to support the show even more, please consider a subscription to the premium feed, which can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. The premium feed costs just a couple dollars a month, but that money will fund the creation of new episodes of the show, and it'll give you those episodes 2 days early, ad-free, and access to a back catalog of episodes. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media. That helps a lot too, and it's free. Your support is very much appreciated. So with all that said, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and together, let's keep Canada weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.